Yeah, what it dang dizzily do? I am Zachary D, the Palsy Papa, and this is the Daily Decompression. How you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and grills, it has been a long week for your mans, let me tell you. I am exhausted as per the usual, but we're gonna still talk about something that I really thought I was never gonna address this on the channel because normally I am not the language police. I am not a social justice warrior. I am not easily offended. I am not a lot of things that you would think somebody who was going to bring up this topic would be, and that is ableism. Before we move much further, I do want to give you a definition of the word ableism. Ableism is the discrimination of and social prejudice against people with disabilities based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. Let me read that again. Based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. So it goes something like this. Normal people, here. People with disabilities, here. You feel me? Like, no, I disagree. All people of all types, all shapes, they are all people, and they deserve respect as people. Now, some people might hold this particular repugnant belief, but I'm still going to respect them as a person. And there's certain language that particular groups of, I guess we'll call them disability advocate groups or advocate groups of people with disabilities, determined as ableist. And while we talk about this, we are going to play a little bit of Minion Masters. The reason this came up is a video that I released yesterday where my wife, Jamie, said that she had OCD. And I took an honestly surprising level of offense to that because she's never been diagnosed with OCD. And I felt some type of way about it because I felt, maybe justifiably so, that this was taking away from people who literally do have the O, the C, and the D. I think it is important not to self-diagnose those alphabet type diagnoses because we've gotten to a point where it can almost be trendy to describe yourself with one of those diagnoses. And as somebody that lives with CP, which is a physical disability, I will tell you personally that there is nothing fun that's actually fun about having CP. And I don't have, and mine is a mental disability, but not in the same sense of like OCD. It's very different. But I imagine that it is fair to say there's not much fun or trendy or admirable, really, about having OCD. Living with OCD, sure. Coping with OCD, definitely. But the actual having OCD, there's nothing trendy or fashionable about that. And I can speak from my perspective, and probably it is the case with people who have OCD or other mental um, disabilities as well, that they would trade it in a heartbeat to be typically able, not because atypical or atypically abled people are worse, just that the world, in a lot of senses, is built around the norm, and I don't blame anybody for that. Of course, it's built around the norm. You don't build a society around um, a subset of people. That is not a thing that is reasonable to do. Like that's not it's not it's not reasonable to build around the handicapped community. In a lot of cases, you should build it in such a way that it is as friendly as possible to those folks who have a disability. But as a norm, I don't expect um, the average to be catering to folks with disability. Um, and I was looking at this list and wondered if I was going to find anything that I actually, as a disabled person, found a little bit offensive. And the answer is no. I'm not easily offended. So it's difficult for me to find something that I consider actually offensive. However, what I will tell you is I definitely found phrases in here that I don't personally like to be used, or I don't understand the intended meaning behind them at all, even kinda. It's an interesting thing because, um, like I said before, I'm not a easily offended person, and I didn't think that I was actually going to get a topic out of this particular discussion. But the term that I find most offensive for my particular situation is handy capable. What in the fook does that mean? Can somebody please explain in the comment section what in the hoot handy capable is supposed to mean? Can you please kindly tell me? Handy capable of what? Handy capable of falling over in my case? Handy capable of not walking straight? What is handy capable and what does it mean? Please do kindly tell me in the comment section. And while you're at it, lick that like button, tickle that notification pickle, and scribble that subscribe button for Zachary D, the Palsy Papa. Because let me tell you, do we have some banging content coming your way in the next couple of weeks? I mentioned it in the video yesterday. So if you want to know what's up and coming on the channel, first big interview of the channel, go watch yesterday's video, peep that out, and you'll be just excited as I am about it. I promise. The other one is handy, no, specially able or differently able. Of course we are, but isn't everyone differently able? What do you mean? Again, it's one of those ambiguous words. What are you trying to get at when you say that? Um, there's a few on this list that surprised me. Like, apparently, um, there's a contingent of people who get offended by the word handicap or handicapped. That surprised me very much because I every time I hear the word handicapped, I think of like handicapped parking. And what are we supposed to say? Person with disability parking? Like what? I don't understand this. This is not something that I I grasp as a concept, I'm sorry. Um, and maybe I'm wrong for that. Maybe I need to expand my uh, get offended and rock with the idea that um, that is in fact offensive. It's just odd. There's a there's a lot of times where saying person with disability or some such is cumbersome in common parlance. Um, so that's one of those that is a little bit awkward to me personally, and that's another point. I think a lot of these um, words to me are going to depend on context and the person that you're talking to. Regardless of your personal beliefs, ableist or not, if a person tells you that being called something is offensive to them, I want to be clear that in private conversation, provided that you are not having a public debate about able-bodiedness, then you are a jackass and generally unfriendly if in fact you decide to still continue to use a phrase or a word that they don't find appropriate. Now, like I said, there's a few on here that I don't understand. Like, I've never been called a victim of cerebral palsy, but I can see certain disabilities that might get that particular descriptor used against them. I've never been told I had a diff ability, and I refer to myself as crippled or a crip all the time. And I think this goes back to all my people with disabilities out there who happen to be watching this video and go, yeah, that really offends me. Go watch my video on getting discriminated against, please. Because a lot of this, you're not going to stop. I think making a big deal about this all the time turns you into a bitter person. I will say that I have personally been known to use the words that people might find of somebody with an intellectual disability. I have said the word retarded on this channel. And I really want you to hear me when I say this. Every time it comes out of my mouth, I know I shouldn't have said that. It is not a word that I want to spread, and I'm not a perfect human being. I'm not a perfect person. So before somebody pulls that clip and says, "Well, you said it," yeah, I'm telling you right now, there are some of these phrases that I use that I am going to start making a conscious effort not to use. Because, let me also say something. If you're going to use the word retarded as an insult, there's a better way to call somebody out on their thing that they did that would make you say something like that without using a term that could be seen as offensive to somebody with mental disabilities. And like I said, I never thought I'd be making this video. I never thought that I would be doing something like this. I never thought that I would even be aware enough to make a video like this. But I guess as I start to talk to people with disabilities, and I start to ask them to be on the channel, and I start to realize that even though I don't get offended by those words, there might be people who've been bullied using those same words, and it might hurt their feelings. Um, like I say, I'm not advocating for some weird call out thing. But I do know a Formula One racer who definitely got in trouble, or recently in the news. Formula One racer from the Netherlands, whose name I can't look up at the moment because I'm playing a video game. Um, who got a strongly worded letter from a disability advocate organization about his use of the word Mongol. Apparently, in the Netherlands, that is a common phrase to use when referring to people who are mentally handicapped or a person with mental disabilities. What is the or and in particular a person with Down syndrome? Apparently, this comes from your original doctor thinking that people with Down syndrome looked Asian. So let's not use those words. I think that there are some I I think there are, like I say, I think there are some times where, because like the word hyper or hyperactive is on here when referring to somebody with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I don't know how calling them hyperactive could be offensive. And if you have um, ADHD, if you are a person with ADHD, please, I want to talk to you about this if you are offended by it, because I want to understand why using a term that is literally in the medical definition of your disability would be offensive. I'm not saying that it's not. I don't have ADHD. I don't think I can define for you, or even all people with cerebral palsy, what would be offensive to them. But I want to see if this particular organization, based out of Australia, that's pwd.org.au, is out of touch and just a um, advocacy group for the sake of being an advocacy group, or if they are in fact advocating for something that the disabled community needs. And this is going to be a very common question across the board with all of my guests who happen to have disabilities. Now, I've also never referred to somebody as having being brain or being brain impaired. I have said they are brain damaged. Um, I guess this particular organization would prefer me to say a person with a brain injury. I should not refer to people with psychosocial disabilities as crazy, insane, mad, manic, a maniac, a mental case, which no. See, and some of these are obvious, and then, or some of these are obvious to me, and then some of them toe the line of not being thick skinned enough. And a little later on down this list, it goes on to say a few more. It says, um, it says that just because a person with a disability uses a term to describe themselves doesn't give you the right to use it. And I would say, when talking to that person, absolutely it does, for sure. If I call myself a crip or crippled or handicapped or the palsy papa, yeah, it would be ridiculous of me when somebody refers to me as a crip or crippled, um, to thusly get offended. If I don't want to be called that thing, I need to immediately cease using the term. Um, I and before we get way too deep, I'm talking specifically in this context. Let's not extrapolate this into a larger discussion on any other topic. This is specifically related to disabilities and the terms used to describe disabilities. Let me be very, very clear. I want to just, before we start jumping out windows around here. So that I think is definitely important as well, because I think if you don't want a term used against you in relation to your disability, or you're going to get offended by a particular term, you shouldn't be using that term. Absolutely not. No way, no how. No, that's what we call a double standard, folks. It's okay for me, but not for you. And I'm not a fan of double standards, and I will challenge them. I will challenge them every which way. And I think it's good to be careful with how you speak, because the words you choose to use often reflect what is on your mind, what is in your heart, what you truly hold. So if you control your language, you control how you speak, you start to control how you feel. Words have power. There's no way around this. And while I didn't plan on making this video, I didn't plan on talking about this, the more I sit here and I think about it and I consider the times that somebody really has cut me down or offended me, it certainly it hasn't always involved terms like these exact terms, but it has involved terms like this, for sure, no doubt, absolutely, no question. It 100% has. So to close this out, so we don't make another hour-long video and I get to ranting and raving and carrying on and whoop whoop whoop, I think it's important for you to know your audience. I think it is important for you to control your language. And I want to hear from those people who don't have my same disability and tell me if you care or have cared at any point in your life about what somebody has called you, or you took offense to a particular term. Maybe you still do, maybe you don't. Maybe you've grown a thick skin and you realize that you can't control everything that somebody says about you, and you realize that is not it's a waste of your time to try and do so. So please commentate on the video, lick that like button, scribble that subscribe button, tickle that notification pickle, because I want to open this discussion up. Anybody with a disability, or anybody with a child with disabilities, anybody who wants to talk about disabilities, wants to know more, wants to learn, wants to have a discussion, wants to challenge me on the topic on one of these videos, let's do it. Leave a comment, send an email to the email that's linked to this channel. I am ZacharyD@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know that you want to talk. We'll swap contact information. We'll set up a time to hash out any beef that you want on this particular channel. I would love to do a live Q&A. If you guys really want a live Q&A, let's get this to 25 likes on this video, and I'll schedule a live Q&A session. I'll make sure to promote that in the upcoming videos. But please turn your notifications on. I've got some really exciting interviews coming up. It's a big time for the channel over here with the Palsy Papa, Zachary D. And it's been an exciting first month. We are onwards and upwards. And as always, don't be tripping, because I'm still crippin'. Oh, wait, that's ableist language, isn't it? See you guys tomorrow. Oh, man. If I could find the stop record button, that'd be great. But I'm still crippin', and you're not tripping. Bye.